Hello everybody, my name is Rohit and welcome back to another video. So what are we going to be building in this video? In this video we're going to be learning how to create a Pastebin application. So what exactly is a Pastebin application? Basically it's just like a site where you can paste text or like upload text and it will be saved on the internet and it will like generate a URL for you. And you can share that with anyone who you want, and when they access that URL, the people who you share it with will be able to see the text that you've pasted. So that's just a summary of exactly what a Pastebin application is. So how are we going to build it? So I've created like a really rough diagram, and up here you can see in my tabs, these are all the tools that we're going to be using in order to create and deploy our application. So I'm going to be walking you through deploying the application as well. So here's the diagram. So over here we have like 4 components, really just 3 because the server is going to be like integrated with Prisma. So let's just walk through each of them, and then I'll also kind of briefly and simply explain how they interact and how they work with each other. So the client is the user, so whoever's going to be using the application, this is like what's going to show up on their browser. And the server, which we're going to make using the NextJS API routes, is just going to be like the back end of our application. It's going to handle requests and stuff like that. And it's integrated with Prisma, which is the ORM that we're going to be using with. And I'll explain exactly kind of what it does in a second. And finally, we have our database, and we're going to be using CockroachDB for that. So let's get started with like just kind of explaining how they all link together. So let's start off with like what kind of happens when a user wants to like upload a paste of text onto our database. So first, the client would kind of like send a request towards our server, and this would be done through Axios, which is a HTTP client for the browser, and Node.js. And for this one, I'm just gonna say like just like paste, something like this. So this is kind of like the request that it's sending to the server, and now our server can handle this request and kind of understand what the client's asking. So now that it knows, it's gonna try talking to Prisma. So over here there's like a kind of like a connection between them, so using that connection it's just gonna send over here, and it's going to send something written in JavaScript. So what Prisma does is it's an ORM. So meaning if you don't want to like write SQL, like raw SQL, instead you can just use whatever language you want, in this case JavaScript, and the Prisma engine can like convert that to SQL and execute those actions. So that's just like the simplest way of describing what it does. So in this scenario, we're just going to say like new paste. Sorry for the bad handwriting, but new paste. And it's going to tell this to the Prisma client, and the server will always have like a connection with the Prisma client, as you can see over here. And now Prisma reads this, it says like new paste over here. So Prisma understands what the server is trying to do, and it converts this into SQL code that the database can actually understand. And now what Prisma's gonna do is it's gonna like open up a connection with the database, something like this. And this connection is temporary. It's only happening when Prisma actually has to actively do something. So now that a connection's open, Prisma's gonna actually execute that SQL into the database. And just for visualization, you can see these little bits of information, which are like the text that has been uploaded. And great, so now that that's done, the database says that it's good, it was successful, and then now the server will respond back to the client saying, okay, great, that just worked. Then Prisma will automatically close out the connection. Now let's say the client wants to read a paste from a URL. So now again, using Axios, it'll send a request saying like, I want to get information. And now using the server and Prisma, we can use like our JavaScript, and for this example, let's just say like get, or like just get a paste. And now Prisma is going to turn this into SQL code. And it's not actually, we're not just gonna like write get, we're gonna actually write JavaScript, but like I'm just writing something so you can like understand what's happening. So now Prisma converts this to SQL, and again it'll open up a new connection, and it will take the paste text, like for example this one, and the database will send this over here onto our server. So now the server has this text, which it can then send over to our client, and our client can then display this information on the browser so the user can actually see the text. So that's just kind of how we're going to accomplish our project. So you can see our four main components: client, our server, Prisma, and our database. So now what tools are we going to use to accomplish this? So one, as you already know, is going to be Prisma. So here's their site. Then for our database, we're going to be using CockroachDB, and that's because they have a really good free plan, and it's like has really good integration with Prisma. So it'll be really easy to write Prisma code for this, as well as deploy this, because we're also going to be deploying it in this video. And for our UI, we're going to be using Tailwind CSS and Axios, as you already know. And finally, for local testing, we're going to be using Docker to like spin up an instance of CockroachDB so we can test it locally. And finally, since we are using NextJS, we're going to deploy it on Vercel for free. So let's get started with actually developing our Pastebin application. Okay, now that I'm in my terminal, I'm going to do npx create next app at latest. Then we're going to be having TypeScript and Tailwind, as well as ESLint. And then we're going to name it Pastebin tutorial video, something like that. And it's going to create a NextJS application. So click yes. And say no to using the source directory, yes to app router, and then no. And this is going to create a new NextJS application. Okay, great, it's done. Now we can cd into it. If I were to list out everything, we can see inside of our app directory we have a page.tsx, layout.tsx, and then globals.css. And yeah. Now we can initialize Prisma. So I'm just gonna search up prisma.io, and we can see their documentation. It's really easy to follow. So go to start from scratch, and it'll teach you like how to install it, but we're only gonna take a couple of commands from this because this is expecting you to like start from like a blank project. So we're just gonna like copy this npm install prisma, and that's gonna install, and afterwards we just have to initialize it. Now we do npx prisma init, then dash dash data source provider, and we're just gonna say CockroachDB. Okay, great, that worked. So now we're gonna open up our project, and we can go into schema.prisma, and we can see that the provider is CockroachDB. Then in our .env, we can see that a database URL has been created, and this is just like a completely random database URL. Okay, great. So now that we just installed Prisma, we should probably also set up our database now. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you have Docker installed, and once you do, just open that up. So I just opened up Docker Desktop, and now I'm just gonna show you one shortcut that I made, because this is a really long command, but I just gave it an alias cdb/start single node, or SSN. So this is the command that it has. So it's docker run -d, then we're gonna name it cockroach container, then the port as well as like the HTTP address, and it's gonna be an insecure single node. Okay, so and that's my alias. So for anyone else, it'll be in like your bash rc or your zsh rc. So this command will be in the description, so you can just create like an alias for it. But anyways, as you can see, my Docker desktop is running. So I'm gonna run my command now. So cdb ssn, you can just copy in the command from the description. And great, it's running. And we can confirm this by going to localhost 8080. And this is where the cockroach console will be. So we can go to databases, and we can see we have default DB, Postgres, and system. So I'm just going to open up a new tab, and then Pastebin tutorial video, and I'm going to open up my .env, and if you follow the commands right and you pasted it correctly, this should be your database URL. So PostgreSQL :/root at localhost 262.57/default db $SSL mode equals disable. And you can check if this works by just like copying this and going into the cockroach DB shell. So run cockroach SQL insecure, then URL equals, and then paste it in. And for this to work, you need the cockroach CLI. So that's pretty easy to download. Just search up like cockroach DB CLI, and you can see over here, and it will teach you how to install it. But I already have installed, so I'm gonna run this. And you can see that it's working when it actually takes me to the shell. So I'm just gonna do like show tables, and yeah, sorry, not tables, show databases, and you can see the 3 databases over here. Okay, great, and then just Control-C or Command-C to exit. Now let's get started actually defining our schema.prisma. So we're just gonna ignore the client and the DB, so the data source and generator. Instead, we're gonna make a new model, and we can name this model paste. So this is gonna give me an error saying error validating model, and basically it's complaining because we didn't give it like a unique ID. So I'm gonna say ID string, and then at default CUID, and add ID to make it the ID, and then we're going to say paste title. Then we're gonna give it string, but we're gonna put a question mark in order to make it optional. And then finally we're gonna do paste content, which is gonna be a mandatory string, so we don't put a question mark. So there are like a ton of types, like int, I think there's one for float, yeah, and then there's also JSON, but yeah, we're just gonna be using string. Okay, so now that we have this model for our paste, we're gonna go back into our terminal and do npx prisma migrate dev. and this is going to create a new migration, and just click enter, and now it's running generate, as you can see over here. And great, it's done. And it's also created, installed and generated a Prisma client. Then we can also do npx prisma generate, just to make sure. And if you're choosing to use something other than CockroachDB, not all databases support Prisma migrate dev, but this is universal. So if that doesn't work, just run npx prisma generate. Now I'm gonna go back into my shell for CockroachDB, and you can see that if I show tables now, we have our table for paste. If we go back, you can see under migrations, it's created a migration.sql, and as you can see, the Prisma converted this code that's easily readable and easily creatable for us into SQL code over here, which might not be as intuitive to create. Okay, great. We've just created a blank NextJS project, and we've also added Prisma to it. So now let's get started with running up our NextJS application and creating some front-end code for it. Okay, yeah, let's get to creating the front end of our project. So I'm going to go into app and into my page.tsx and my layout.tsx. And we can close out schema.prisma. And also we can just go to our .gitignore real quick. And it's going to make a comment called envs. Then we're going to put down .env, asterisk, and then .env to add anything that ends with .env to the gitignore. Now when I save, you'll see that the .env disappears from my file tree. So to toggle this in NeoVim, I just do Shift I, and that'll show up my hidden files. But yeah, I'm going to close that tab as well as my gitignore. And now I only have my layout.tsx and my page.tsx. So in my other terminal window, I'm going to do npm run dev. Like this, and this is going to open up a development server for me. Wait. So we have something at http localhost 3000, which I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste that into my browser. And you can see by the logs that it's compiling, and it's compiled. And you can just see over here that it's just a little starter page. So what I'm actually gonna do is delete the entire main tag. Instead, just put a React fragment that just has a hello world h1 in it. And what I'm actually going to do is inside of app, I'm going to make a new directory called home with parentheses. So I have to make that a directory. Like this. And the parentheses are because it's an organizational folder, so it won't actually affect the route. And I'm going to move page.tsx into my home directory. And if everything works out, we can see that hello world is displayed on our dev server. So we can see that some default styles has already been applied. So I'm going to go into my globals.css and delete everything over here that's not the 3 at tailwind. And as you can see, all the default styles just kind of disappear. And I can also just add HTML and body, padding 0, margin 0, and then box sizing, border box, like this. Okay, great, and we can close that now. and we can just leave our layout.tsx the same for now. Now, I mentioned that I'm also going to be teaching you how to code the front end of this application as well, and that includes a fully responsive landing page, as well as a page for creating pastes and for viewing pastes. So let's get to creating our landing page first. So we have our function home. We can just make our landing page inside of here. So generally you want to make like different components for different parts of your landing page, but our landing page is honestly going to be extremely simple, so there's no need for that. But what I am going to do is inside of app, I am going to make a directory called components to keep stuff like my navbar. I'm just going to say like navbar.tsx. And inside of my layout.tsx, I'm gonna import my navbar. So component imports, and we're gonna import navbar. And we're gonna put the navbar right above the children. Just like this. And as you can see, our navbar will show up now. Okay, great. So let's get started with creating our navbar first. So I'm just gonna make like a tag called nav, and then hello nav, like this. And what I'm gonna do is just put like filler text for now, and instead of nav, we're just gonna do class name equals, and we're gonna do width full, and then py something like 5, px 7, and we'll just give like a background color of red. And as you can see, our navbar is taking up all of this space. So I'm also going to give it flex, item center, and justify between. Then at the top, we are going to import link from next/link. And now I'm going to make a link tag like this, and just say like Pastebin. Maybe I can even do like that inside of an h1. So just paste. And then I'll put bin in a span just for styles. Something similar to this. And yeah, we're getting some errors because we didn't give this a href. I'm just gonna say href equals and then just slash. And yeah, that should work. So this is just a link back to our slash. And I'm gonna remove bgred 500 and make the h1 a bit bigger. So maybe text XL. And we might be able to increase the padding Y to like 9 or something. And also we want this font semi-bold to make something like this. And I think we can even do something like 2XL. Yeah, that looks pretty good for now. And then inside of my span, just gonna say text, and then you can take a look at some good colors. Maybe we'll use like maybe blue as our color. So text blue, and let's try 700 first. Yeah, something like this. And I think it would be better with bold. Yeah, okay, great. And now on the other side, we want like a little div. So I'll make a div, and I'll just say like other side for now. And we can see that it will show up on this side because of our property justify between. And we're gonna first make a link, href equals like new paste. Then I'll just say like new paste, and this will create like a link to create new pastes. So let's give this some good styles. So class name equals px4 py2 and bg blue 700, maybe 600. We'll just try that out. Yeah, something like this, a rounded float. And if we do that, we will have to increase our padding y to make it look better. Then we can just say text white, and then text sm, something like this. And we can also make it font medium, that might be good, and tracking type. Okay, so it'll look something like this, and on hover we can do bg blue 700. And I'm also going to change bin over here to have a text color of 600 to like be uniform. And great, when we hover, the hover effects are working. And as you can see, this will take us to /new paste, which does not exist yet. But yeah, that's fine. We have our nav bar, which is working, so we can just use that to go back to our home page. Okay, great, that's working nice. Now above this link, I'm gonna make another link. This one with an href of maybe like view. And inside I'm just gonna say find paste, and actually view paste, sorry. Something like this. And our div, which is wrapping around this, we can give it flex, item center, justify center, and then a gap of 3. Yeah, this should work. Maybe like a higher gap might be better, like 5. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And we can just copy the styling of this, but we're just gonna slightly modify it. So we have this. Now I want it to be bg white, but on hover it'll get like neutral 100. And that means we can just remove text white, something like this. And now when we hover it, we get like that subtle background. And if you want, you can change this to like 200 as well, just to make it like more visible. But I'm just gonna keep it to 100. And we can also therefore reduce the gap, since it doesn't have like a very obvious border. So yeah, this just makes it look a lot better and like flow a lot cleaner. Okay, great. Now finally, we're just gonna like do a quick hero section over here. It doesn't have to like look super good, but just manageable enough. So inside of my page.tsx, I'm just gonna do something like main, and then long text blah blah, just so we can see this for now. And then first I'm gonna give it like a px of 7, but we do want this center line, so I'm just gonna say width full flex call item center, then justify start, and then empty something like 20 maybe. Yeah, this is good. maybe we can even increase this number to like 32. Or that might be a bit too much. Maybe in like high 20s, 24, like just in the middle. Is that not a thing? Then I'll just do it 28. Sorry, I just had like I just removed my space by accident. Okay, yeah, this should work. And in my H1, I'm gonna just change the class name. Text 5XL might be a bit too big, but we can just see. Yeah, this is fine, I think. Font semi-bold. Like this, and then text neutral and like 800, just so it's not like too harsh on the eyes, or even something like 700. And I'm just gonna go to like lorem ipsum.io to get some filler text. Okay, yeah, something like this. And we might want to make this a bit smaller now. And also make the on large screens max width something like 70%. And then also text center, and we can change this to like 60%. And yeah, that looks pretty good. And I'm just gonna like put a span over here. And give it a class name of text blue 600. Like this, just to make it like stand out. You can put whatever text that you want over here, it doesn't really matter. And below this, we're gonna make like a paragraph tag. And we can just like copy in more text. And class name equals text medium, text neutral, and something like 600. And width 60%, then text center. And of course we have to put large over here. And gap 7 up in main. So it should look something like this. I'm gonna change this to 50%, but make it text small. And I'm gonna replace neutral 600 with like opacity instead. Something like this. And as you can see, this is going to be responsive as well. So let me just change my viewports. So it's responsive on mobile devices as well. And then we can just put some more buttons. So I'm just gonna copy the div from the navbar and then just paste that in. And of course we have to import link. And then we can delete the import image. And as you can see, we also get these other buttons. And I feel like the gap is a bit too small, so we can also change up the gap. So maybe gap something like 12. And yeah, this looks pretty good for like a basic landing page. So great, we have a basic landing page going on. So now let's get to creating our new paste page as well as our view paste page. Okay, now that our landing page is done, let's take a look and try and create our new page, new paste page. And as you can see, we're getting like a 404, this page could not be found. And then the navbar also looks weird. So we can fix this, one, by just going to the navbar. Since our default background is gonna be white anyway, I don't think we need BG white over here. So we can just remove that line. and yeah, it'll look normal now. And we're still getting this 404 not found because there is no page.tsx over there. So I'm gonna create a new directory inside of app, and we're just gonna call it new paste, and the naming of it is very important. And then page.tsx inside tsx inside of there, then RAFCE new paste, and then we'll just save. And now when we go back, we'll see that app/new paste, we have the text over here, new paste. So I'm gonna close out my home page.tsx and my layout.tsx, as well as my navbar for now. And then I'm just gonna make a main over here, and then I'll just say hello from new paste, something similar to this. Now I'm gonna say for my main, we can honestly just copy in our main styles from my original page.tsx, since they're essentially going to be the same. And as you can see, everything is centered. And in an H1, it's going to put like a heading like new paste, or like paste creation page, something similar to this. And then in my class name, I'm gonna just say text 3XL, font bold, and opacity 90. So it'll just show up something like this. Maybe I can make this 80. And yeah, we have our page, paste creation page. And underneath of that, I'm gonna put a text area, just like this. As you can see, we have our text area that we can resize over here. And I'm just gonna say for its class name, BG neutral 100, just so we can kind of see it. And then I might do width full, and then on large screens, max width is like 60%. So yeah, something similar to this. And for my border 2, and then border neutral 200. So yeah, something like this, and then rounded medium. So yeah, we have like a good little input now. And I'm also gonna add like a placeholder. Let's say enter paste text here. And we can give it some padding. Sorry, that's in the wrong one. P3. So it ends up something like this. And now what I'm gonna do is at the top, I'm gonna say use client to make this a client side component. And what that allows us to do is use stuff like React hooks. So I'm gonna import use state, and then const and I'm just gonna say paste content, set paste content equals use state string, like this. And what I'm gonna do is also make a function. So const update paste content equals any, and then set paste content, and then e.target value as string. And this should work. Now what I want to do is inside the text area, I'm just going to do on change equals update paste content. Then in a little p tag, I'm just going to display our paste content. Just like this. So now as you can see, whatever we have in our paste over here, we are able to display it. And what I'm also gonna do is give it a class name and then just say like white space free line. And what that will do is it'll preserve my line breaks, as you can see over here. And now this is resizable, which I am fine with in case you have like really large text. And now what I want to do is I want to make like a little preview. So I'm just gonna copy this in, put it, and then I'm just gonna say paste preview, just so they can see like a little preview of their paste. And then honestly, I'll just copy in my styles from my text area and just copy it into my P. So now whatever is in my paste creation text area, it'll also show up in a paste preview. And finally, at the bottom for main, I'm just gonna change MT to just like MY. So now the bottom has some padding to it, so it just looks a bit better. Okay, great. We've just created a paste creation page. Now finally, all I have to do is add like a little button that says like submit paste. So that's gonna be right here. So button, and then upload paste. Something like this, and we can copy the styles from this button. Just like this. So now we have an upload paste button, and then we also have like a little text area that can also display a paste. So now let's get to actually creating a way for the paste to be uploaded and stored in our database. Okay, now that we have our new paste UI done, let's actually create a way to upload a paste. So NextJS offers something called like API routes, and you just have to create a folder called API inside of app, and inside of here you can create like subdirectories like hello and then root.ts. And inside of here you want to do like export function yet, and it's going to be an async function, then rec request, then import next response from next server. Then we can just do like return new next response hello from API, and we can save this. And what I'm gonna do is go into Postman, and I'm gonna type in http localhost 3000 /API/hello because of this hello. Now I'm gonna click send, and as you can see, we get the text over here, hello from API, that we're returning. Okay, so now that we just kind of see how these API routes work, we can delete the hello subdirectory and instead make something called new paste, then route.ts, then export async function post. Then we're gonna do req request, and then we're gonna import our next response, and then we're gonna say const body equals await request.json, and then we could say const then paste content equals body. Then finally we can just do a return new next response body, just so we can see the body that we've been provided. So body, then paste content. And this is a post request at /new paste, so API /new paste. And if I send a get request, it's not going to work because it only expects post requests. And just sending this is going to give me like a server error because we did not provide a body. So let's try providing a body. So click raw, then JSON, then paste content. Hello, this is an example, paste content. And we can click send. And as you can see, we're returned a paste that says, hello, this is an example paste content, which is exactly what we inputted over here. Now, we have to actually integrate Prisma now. So we can't just straight up import the Prisma client because we are going to be deploying on Vercel, which is serverless. So that's going to give us some errors if we just straight up import the Prisma client. So instead, inside of app, I'm going to just make a directory called libs. Inside of libs, directory called Prisma, then db.ts. And I'm just gonna like paste in some code over here, which will be available in the description, but I'm not gonna go over this code too much. But yeah, basically it imports Prisma and configures it in like a way that makes it okay to run on serverless environments. So we can close this tab now, and again it will be available in the description. And I'm gonna import db from libs/prisma/db, and as you can see, this should work. And I can close my page.tsx and navbar for now, and instead, inside of my Prisma, I'm gonna go into schema.prisma. As you can see, we just have our paste title and then our paste content. I'm just gonna get rid of paste title now, just to make things a bit more simple. We'll just have like a paste content. First, I'm gonna say if not paste content, then we return a new next response. Paste content is required with a status of 400 for bad request. And now if I try sending this without paste content, you can see that we get paste content is required, but if we have it, the request successfully goes to here. Now instead, what we want to do is I'm gonna wrap all of this in a try catch. Catch E for error, then return new next response, internal server error, status 500. Then just for debugging, I'm gonna console.log new paste error, and then put in E. Now what I'm gonna do is const new paste equals await db dot then paste. We can see the autofill over here, and if you're not getting autofill, open up a new terminal window, cd into your tutorial video, wherever you have it stored. So Pastebin tutorial video, and then you just run npx prisma generate, which I do have to do right now because I updated my prisma schema. So I'm just gonna run that npx prisma generate. And again, you can also do npx prisma migrate dev, just one or the other. You don't have to do both, you can just do whichever one you want to, but migrate dev creates like a migration file for you, just in case like that's something that you want. And as you can see, I would have a new migration file over here. But yeah, so db.paste.create, and then we do data, then paste content is paste content. And sorry, I have to just remove the original paste content. It's not a key value, I think. Oh yeah, I know what I did wrong. You have to have curly braces over here. So that should fix any errors. And then we can just do console.log new paste success, just for our debugging purposes in case we ever have to, and then new paste. Then I'm just gonna return new next response, successfully created paste, then with a status of 200 for success. Now let's try creating a paste. So let's send this request, and great, we've successfully created paste, and we can see that our new paste success, it's given us an ID as well as paste content. And just to double check, we can go into our cockroach SQL shell, URL equals, and we can just take this from our .env. And when we do select star from paste, we can see that a new row has been created. Hello, this is an example paste content. So great, that's occurred successfully. So now how do we actually implement this and allow the user to create a new paste using the site and not like just using a tool like Postman? So that's what we're going to do right now, and we're going to be using Axios to send requests, the post request, to create new pastes. Okay, so now that we have our page for new pastes, let's actually create a way to upload pastes. So what I'm going to do is create a new window, then we can cd into projects, then Pastebin tutorial video, then we're just going to do npm I Axios, and that's installed. So now in our page.tsx, I'm just going to import Axios, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new state called isLoading, which is going to be a boolean. So equals use state boolean false, and inside of my button I'm just gonna say disabled equals is loading, and inside of my class name I'm gonna get rid of the double quotations and instead add backticks so we can insert variables and conditionals into it. And I'm gonna get rid of the hover for now, and instead inside of the $ and curly brackets I'm gonna say is loading question mark. Then we're just gonna say cursor default, then opacity 50, else cursor pointer, and then hover. So we're gonna put our hover over here. So hover blue 700. So something like this. And I'm just gonna try setting it to true real quick, so just so we can test it out. And what does it say over here? Oh yeah, okay. I put a question mark. So instead, I'm just going to put in my thing over here. And yeah, this should work as expected. And as you can see, I'm not able to interact or press the button right here. Now I'm gonna change this back to false. And instead I'm gonna make a new function called handle, or actually just like create new paste equals and I'm gonna just do set is loading to be true. Okay, great. Now inside of my button, I'm finally gonna do an on click equals create new paste. Now when I click, it's just gonna disable itself. So great, that's working as expected. Now we are gonna use Axios. So they have great documentation. If you ever want to read it, you can just search up like Axios post and it'll just like show you an outline of like how a post request works. So I'm just gonna say axios.post and we're /API /new paste like this, because it's an API and then new paste. And I'm just gonna do in our body paste content is our paste content, then then response, then console.log success, and then our response. And let's see, you can also have like a catch, so catch, and then our error, then console.log error. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add like a finally. Then I'm just gonna do set is loading, and I'm just gonna set the is loading to be false, just like this. So let me open up my console and let's see how we did for this. I'm just gonna say test paste created from page, and when we click, great, it's successful and it's returned object. But yeah, it appears to be successful. So let's just check on our SQL shell. So select star from paste, and as you can see, we get test paste created from page and like number 2, upload, and we can run this command again, and as you can see, everything is saved perfectly. Okay, great. So we've just added a way for our paste to successfully be created. So now all we have to do is create our /view, as you can see. And what I want to have is have like a little input where you can input in an ID and then be directed to that paste, or you can just like copy in a /view URL. So let's get started doing that now. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is create an API route for getting pastes. So I'm gonna make a new directory inside of API called get paste, as you can see over here, then root.ts, and we're gonna make this an export async function get, then request next request like this, and we're also gonna import next response. And we're gonna put this in a try catch like this, and we can just close out schema.prisma, and yeah, we can just copy in our previous error, and we're gonna just change it to get paste error. And I'm also gonna import db from libs prisma, then db. And now I'm just gonna say const paste id equals request dot next URL dot search params dot get, and we'll just say paste id, something like this. And then I'm just gonna do return new next response and paste id like this. And now I'm just gonna open up Postman, and we can test out if this works or not. Okay, I'm just gonna copy in this URL and then just create a get request and then click send, and this is gonna give nothing. And if I do like question mark paste id equals hello, then this is gonna return hello, just like this. And now if I do if paste id dot length equals 0 or not paste id, so if paste id doesn't exist, then we're gonna return new next response. Paste id is required, status 400, something like this. So if I just like make this blank, for example, it's gonna say paste id is required, and same if we just like remove it altogether. But now if we like just re-add it back and we click send, it's gonna work as expected. Now what I want to do is do const paste query equals await db dot paste dot then find many where the id is the paste id, and then I'm just gonna return new next response. And we can just say like paste query, something like this for now. Now I'm just gonna click send. Okay, we're not getting anything because that's not like a real paste ID. So instead I'm just going to copy in this real one and put it in just like this and click send, and we're getting object. So I think we have to return this as like return new next response.json, and we can return get rid of the new, then we can just say data, then paste query, something like this. So now when I send it, we're getting data, and then we can see our paste. So we're getting the paste ID, and then we're getting the paste content test paste created from page number 2. And then what I'm gonna do is if paste query dot, and this is coming as like a list, so dot length equals 0, then return new next response, and then paste not found status 44. So now if I like just remove this 9, it's gonna give us that paste not found. If I just put that 9 back, we can see that we are getting this data successfully. So yeah, great, that just worked out nicely. So now let's try incorporating and using this route inside of a view pastes page. Okay, so now that we've created a route for getting posts, let's go to app and create a directory called view. And then I'm gonna make a page.tsx as well as this. So you put in square brackets and then make a directory called slug. Then inside of there, another page.tsx. So I'm just gonna say dynamic view, and inside of my regular page, I'm just gonna say view. And if I go into my browser and view paste, we can see I'm just getting view. But if I do like slash anything, so slash like hello, I'm getting dynamic view. And in the NextJS documentation, you can see that they provide you a method to access these parameters. So I'm just gonna copy that into my dynamic view, just like this, and then inside of my div, I can just do params.slug. Now as you can see, hello123 is being displayed. So now that we have that working, let's create a fragment, and we can just copy in some styles from new paste. So I'm just gonna copy in the whole main for now, and I'll get rid of the text area and the button and the second h1. Then inside the paragraph, I'm just gonna say hello world. And then change the h1 to view paste. Now when we reload, we see view paste and then hello world. Okay, great. So now what I want to do is go up and then change this to a client component. Then I'm also going to import Axios as well as use state and use effect. Now we want to make a new state called paste content, set paste content equals use state. And for now, we're just gonna put this as any, and I'm gonna make a new function inside of use effect, and I'm just gonna do console.log component mounted, just like this for now. So when I open up my console, we can see component mounted. Now what I want to do next is I have some Axios documentation for like a GET request, but it's pretty simple. You just go to the URL, and then you can have like a question mark for your parameters. So I'm just gonna do axios.get/API, and I'm using backticks over here, /API/get paste, and paste ID equals my params.slug, like this, then .then response console.log response, then .catch error console.error, like this, and we're gonna ignore the .finally. Now when I reload this, we're gonna see a bunch of errors, and basically this is because there's no paste with the ID of hello123, and if you remember, we're returning a status of 404, which is considered an error code, so it's erroring. Now if I like go and select a good valid ID and I set that as my parameter over here, we are going to see no errors, and instead we're going to see this response data, as you can see over here. Now what I'm going to do in the .then is set paste content response.data.data, and let's just like do json.stringify data. Sorry, I don't want to do data, I want to do paste content. And reload this. It is loading right now, and as you can see, we are getting this list, but I don't want the list, I just want the first element. So I'm going to do paste content 0.paste content, something like this. And what's going on over here? What if I just do like json.stringify just to debug it? And okay, we're getting this. And then .paste content, which should work. And just get rid of the json.stringify for now, and maybe I'll just put like a question mark over here, which may work. And yeah, that just worked. So I just needed the question mark over here. And now as you can see, this is loading up the correct paste. And if I go back to select a different one, maybe this should say hello, this is an example paste. And as you can see, we're getting hello, this is an example paste content. So now what do we do if like there's like an error because this paste does not exist? So I guess we can just do like a window.location.replace. So window.location.replace, then just slash. So now as you can see, it's just replacing me all the way back to the home page. If I got a view slash then like a real ID, we can see that hello, this is an example paste content is loaded. But you'll notice that like when I refresh, we can see that this just is blank for a while, which does not really look that good. So instead, what I'm gonna do is make a new state called is loading, set is loading, and this time it's gonna start off as true because we're loading as soon as the component mounts. Now I can just do like is loading, and then just copy this in, and let me just paste this in, then we can delete this. And now what I have to do is in a dot finally, I have to set is loading to be false. Now when I refresh, you can see that it says loading until we are successfully able to load the content. And if it's like an invalid, then we just get redirected straight back to our landing page. Okay, great. So now all that's left is to do the /view, where I'm planning to have like a little search bar where we can like manually search for pastes. Okay, so let's get started creating our view page. So I'm gonna just go to the page.tsx and view, not slug. Then create a fragment inside of that, like this, and I can actually just like copy in this main, just styles for it. So now main class name equals like this, hello, and we can see that the hello is centered. Now I'm gonna change hello to instead be like an input, then type equals text, placeholder equals enter paste ID, something like this. And now what I'm gonna do is actually give it the styles from my p tag. Just like this. Okay, great. So now we have like a place for us to enter our paste ID. And then finally all we need is a button below. And so we can just take the styles from the button from my new paste. So just copy in those styles. And I'm just gonna remove this. Then cursor pointer, and then we're also going to do hover bg blue 700. Now as you can see, we have like a little search button and it doesn't do anything yet, but yeah, that's what we're going to make it do. So once the paste ID is entered, I am going to make this a client component, and then we're gonna import use state. So const paste ID set paste ID equals use state string, and now I'm just gonna do const update paste ID ene. And now what we are going to do is set paste ID e.target.value as string. And then for the input, on change equals update paste ID. Then in like a p tag, I'm just gonna do paste ID just to make sure that it's working. And as we can see, whatever we update is working. Now finally, my function is const handle search, then window.location.replace. Then I'm just gonna do /view/ then I'm gonna make this backticks, and we can just do paste ID. So now when I search for like hello 123, search. Oh yeah, we have to do on click. And this is invalid, so it's just gonna redirect me back. But like if I go to view paste and like I have an actual ID such as this, enter paste, search, and now as you can see we get paste loaded up. Now one final thing that I want to do is quickly head on to the new paste page. And finally, after I set is loading to false, I want to do window.location.replace /view/ and what we want to do is here, let's just see what happens first when we create a new paste, so it's very clear what I'm exactly doing. So in my console, just like test paste, upload paste, and we get success, but I don't know what my object is. So maybe if I just do like console.log response, it might be a bit easier. So test paste 2. Okay, so this is what I'm getting. So I have to access my dot. Oh, okay, yeah. So I understand what we have to do. So inside of my APIs and then my new paste root.ts, instead of returning something like this, I have to return response or something like status success data and then new paste. And this is gonna give some errors, so I'm just gonna remove the new, then instead make it .json, and they should remove any errors. So now if I make like test paste 3, then upload it, we can see in our data that we're getting status success, and then inside of another thing called data, we're getting our paste ID. So this is what we want. So what I'm gonna do is go over here, response.data .data and .paste content. And now if I save this and upload paste, we can see, oh, I need .id. And okay, yeah, that's working. So let me just copy this and paste it in right here. And actually I have to do this inside of here itself, like this. So now if I were to create like a new paste like hello, this is a cool new paste, and I click upload paste, this is gonna redirect me where I can see my paste, and as you can see, view paste, and I can just copy in this URL and share to anyone who can just paste it in, and they are able to view my paste from anywhere. And if they just have my ID, so if I can just share my ID with them, so they can come to the site, click on view paste and enter paste ID, and they're also able to view my paste that way.